Hello everybody, welcome to the Java course. When we talk about passing values to the functions in Java, we have to notice one important property of parameter passing in Java. In Java, all the actual parameters are passed by value. That means we get the value of the parameters and then we put that value into the functions that we are going to use. So in this video, I'm going to talk about this important property of passing by value by using some of the functions that I have created in the toolbox.java source file. First, I'm going to make use of the increment function in my toolbox class. Suppose that now I have a value called x, which is a primitive, and 2 is stored in the primitive directly. And then if I want to increment the value of x, I can make use of the increment method. How can I do that? It might be possible for us to make use of the increment method to get the value of x after having the function being done. In this case, what will we get for the value called answer? Let me try. I want to print it out, save it, run it. I will get 3 as the answer coming from the increment function provided by the toolbox. Why is it the case? When we talk about passing x into the method called increment, what we are going to do is that we create a copy of this variable, and then we pass that copy of the value into the function. That means I have a copy which is having a value of 2, and then I would pass the value of 2 into the increment method. So the formal parameter a will be having 2 being the actual parameter. And then in this static function called increment, I have a local variable which is called step, and then I add this value of step into the value represented by the formable parameter, and then I will return the new value after having this addition. So in this case, a will be passed to the return value of this increment function, and this value of a will be stored in the answer primitive in my main method. So the answer would become 3 as the answer coming from this variable called answer. So I have printed out the value of answer, but how about x? Will x be changed? I can print it out. Okay, we can see that x is not changed. Why? Because when we do the method called increment, we just passed the copy of the variable x into the increment method. That means this variable called x has never been changed. So in this case, x is still equal to 2. So we have to notice this important property, which is called passing by value. If we want to change the value of x after passing it to a function, we can have this approach. We can do something like this. After we have performed the method, I'm going to assign the return value of this method to the original variable called x. In this case, I will be able to overwrite the original variable. So let me see the result by printing it out. Yes, I can get 3 as the answer because x is now overwritten by a new value which is equal to 3. So this is an important property. If we want to change the original value, we can overwrite it with the value returned by the method. Okay, let us see another example of passing by value. Now I'm going to append characters into a given string. So I'm going to concatenate 2 strings, and then I will store the reference of that string into the original formal parameter called a, and then I'm going to return the formal parameter to the main method. So how can I call this method? I can do something like this. I have 2 strings. This is the first reference variable that points to this string, and string 2 is another reference variable that points to another string. Okay, if I want to join the 2 words together, I can make use of the append chars method. What will I get? I will get sunshine as the answer. And in this process, we have to notice the mechanism. When we call the function or call the method, we would simply pass the copies of the string references into the append chars method. So that means string 1 and string 2s are not altered during the function call. Okay, we just put the copies of the 2 references into the method. So I would have 2 actual parameters being the copies of the original string references. So string 1 and string 2 are not altered at all. How can I know that? I can print the result out. yes, I will get sun as the string referenced by this string1 reference variable. So we can be sure that the two strings are not altered because we just pass the copies of those references into the methods. Okay. Here I would like to introduce the situation of altering the user-defined objects by other methods. Okay, now I want to introduce a clothes class. For illustration, I would use the public instance variables so that my toolbox class, which is an external class, can handle the instance variables pertaining to the clothes class. And in this clothes class, I simply set the size number by using a constructor. So that it is quite simple. My intention is to set the size of my clothes by using the toolbox methods. It is possible to do so, actually. How can we do that? We can take a look now. And before that, we have to notice that my instance variable is set to be public because I want my toolbox classes to be able to alter the things contained in the clothes class. But we have to be warned that it is not a good practice to do so. Instead, the instance variables should be kept private. Suppose I want to set up my shirt reference variable, which is obtained by creating a new clothes object, and my shirt size is 25. So I can make use of the constructor here to set up an object in the memory space. When I have created this shirt object reference, I'm going to set the shirt to size 30. What does it mean by that? Let's look at the set size method. Okay, the set size method is like that. The top is the reference variable pertaining to a clothes object, and size is the value that is going to change my original clothes size. So I'm going to change the size number of my clothes object. Okay, top dot size number equals size. That means I'm going to change my shirt to size number 30 instead of the original value of 25. So how is it possible to do so? Yes, we can do that. The idea is like that. I would pass the copy of the shirt reference variable to the set size method, and 30 is actually primitive, and I mean an integer primitive, and then I will create a copy of that integer primitive, and then I will pass that copy to the set size method. I can print this new size number out. yes, I can get 30 as the answer, okay. Here 30 is the new size number of my shirt object, okay. The mechanism is also by means of passing by value. I create the shirt reference, which is a copy, and then I would pass that copy to the setSize method. Also, this primitive is passed as a copy of this value, okay. So we can change the object instance variables by using a static method from an outside class. But again, I have to say that it is not a recommended approach. Okay, we should rely on the methods given by the clothes class to change the instance variables. Okay, another example that I'm going to discuss is the passing by values in handling arrays. Here I'm going to increment all the elements in a given array by using the increment array method in my toolbox class. Suppose I set up my array. Okay, here I set up a new array called my array. My array here is simply a reference variable that points to an array object whose elements are 3, 6, and 2. If I want to add all the elements in my array by 1, I can make use of the increment array in my toolbox class. So when we look at the increment array method, we simply change the contents of each element by 1. Okay. And for this method, the idea is like this. We pass the copy of the array reference into the increment array. Since we still get the reference of this array object, the effect is like we change the array directly, but we have to remember that we don't change the array element directly. We have to get the reference, which is a copy, and then we have the copy, and then we go to the object referenced by that reference variable, and then we do the amendment to the values in the array. Okay, we pass a copy of the object reference to a method as the actual parameters of the method, okay. After we have got the reference variable, the array is going to be changed because we can get the array object directly from the copied value of the reference. Okay, that's the mechanism. So I can see the result by printing all the elements in my array after having done the increment array method. Save it, run it. Oh, sorry, I got the references 3 times because I didn't put the index. Okay, after putting the index, I should get the values in the array. Yes, I will get 473 as the answer, which comes from the increment in the increment array method. So it seems to us that we change the objects directly when we handle arrays or any other objects. But we have to notice that we pass a copy of an object reference to the method. So we don't change the object directly. Instead, we pass the method. We pass the reference to the methods, and then after we have got the reference, we can change the content reference by that reference variable. So that's the mechanism of passing by value in Java. I hope you are able to understand the mechanism of changing the values in arrays, or in strings, or in primitives. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions about my video, feel free to leave your comments on the comment section below the video. If you like this video, please give me a like and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.